Hello, welcome to another Writerly Witterings. Cheers, my name's Michael Jex. This is the latest in my series of talks about authors I find inspirational. Can be for a number of different reasons, but the reasons for this guy are fairly straightforward. I first came across Terry Pratchett when I was about 25, 26. I was still working as a computer salesman in those days, and I happened to have a meeting in Kingston-on-Thames. And I went into a local bookshop because I was early. I just had 15-20 minutes to kill. And I did what book buying people do generally. I walked along the shelves and just had a look at all of the different books. And one book sprang out at me because it was colourful. It had a different sort of a cover, and when I read the first few pages and discovered that it was set in a distant and second-hand set of dimensions in an astral plane that was never meant to fly, the curling star mists waver and part, and you can see a great Artuin, the turtle, comes swimming slowly through the interstellar gulf. The thought of a land that is flat, so it is a disc, this world, flying through space, resting on the back of 4 enormous elephants who are standing on the back of a turtle that is swimming through the void. I thought, this has got to be worth having a read. Then I got into it a bit further and discovered that wizards in this planet go to the Unseen University, which is very prominent in the town, and wizards have dreadful smoking habits because people in charge of serious magic shouldn't get drunk that often. It's not a good idea. And I discovered Rincewind, the most cowardly wizard on the planet, and failed wizard too. He can't even spell wizard, it's spelt wrongly on his hat in sequins. I loved it. It's not, it's like many first novels, and it wasn't actually his first, but it was the first of his really successful books. It's not polished and refined as well as some of his later books were. But I found this on the bookshelves, I bought it, and I was immediately hooked. I loved his wordplay, I loved his imagination, I just adored his sense of humour. He was a most appealing seeming character. He brought out these two. I had them both almost as soon as they came out, I think, just thinking about it. When was this published? This was published 83, so yeah, I think it was 84, 85 that I got hold of it, so it would have been one of the first editions. And then as soon as the Light Fantastic came out, I had to buy that. I was already hooked. But then the book that I think really set him apart from any other humorous or sci-fi writers was this, Weird Sisters, which is basically a complete piss take of Shakespeare. It's basically a rip-off of Macbeth. But it's wonderful, not so much because of the plot, which is fairly obvious, but because the 3 weird sisters, the 3 witches, just come across as superb, real people. Nanny Ogg, Githa Ogg, and Granny Weatherwax are the 2 main ladies, and they've got a trainee witch as well. But the 2 old ladies, one who is larger than life, really enjoys life, the other one who is a grumpy old maid who really believes more in psychology than, in headology I should say, sorry, than other types of witchcraft. Both of them competent witches, thrown into events that they really don't want to be involved with. Both of them superbly rendered on the page, and this got a lot of people hooked who weren't all wavering a bit up after Colour of Magic and Light Fantastic, but this is the book that started things off. And then what really sealed his reputation was Mort, the story about the apprentice to death. A fantastic book, wonderfully imaginative, beautifully put down. And I have a lot of Terry Pratchett's books. In fact, I've carefully positioned the camera so you can see that shelf there. Interesting Times is immediately obvious, but behind that are all of the other hardbacks. I have every book that Terry Pratchett wrote because I loved his writing. One of the books that I loved more than almost all the others was this, written with Neil Gaiman, Good Omens, which is the story of good and evil and how it can possibly all go horribly wrong. If you haven't read Good Omens, please get hold of a copy. I find it hilarious still, having read it 4 or 5 times. But Terry Pratchett was much more than just a writer of hilarious books who happened to have a real knack for depicting characters. He also was a thoroughly nice bloke. I had the joy of meeting him once. Terry must have had inquiries from all sorts of organisations time after time. I got in contact with him because I was organising the dagger ceremony for the Crime Writers Association one year, and I thought that Terry would be an ideal guest to come and give us an after dinner talk, because he had written several crime books, starting with Guards, I think was the first of his Discworld crime books with Commander Vimes. Brilliant stories, all of them. Very, very good functioning crime stories, but trying to write crime and humour is astonishingly difficult. Terry just did it. So I contacted him through his editor, and he was incredibly gracious and agreed to come and give a talk for that most important of aspects with the CWA. He did it for free. He had a meal with us and then gave an after dinner speech that was humbling. I think it's fair to say he was very self-deprecating, very kind indeed towards all of the other writers in the room. He was just a magnificently wonderful person, and it was a very great shame when I heard that he had developed his final illness, and it was a great shock and matter of extreme sadness when he died, because he was a bloke who was interesting, witty, kind and generous, all of those good things, and he brought orangutans to the world to a large extent, because in his Discworld books The Librarian was an orangutan. There's good reasons for it, you need to read the books to find out. Equal Rights, I think, was the book that happened in. But he was a great ambassador for orangutans and the natural world. He'll be greatly missed. He is greatly missed. So, Terry Pratchett, he did a lot for orangutans and also for getting people to think about death, which is never a bad thing, I don't think. He brought it all down to a basic level with self-deprecating humour, even when he was getting close to his own death. So there you have it. Terry Pratchett, a wonderful man, a kind man, a delightful man, but a hilarious writer whose fame will live on in his books. What can I say? Cheers, Terry. Now, normal things. If you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell beside it, because then you'll get notified of new videos coming through. Also hit the like button, please, because then YouTube in their infinite wisdom decide that somebody likes me and they want to have more videos. That's good. And if you've got any questions about Terry Pratchett or me, or want to suggest other authors I ought to be talking about, or anything else really, stick it in the comments section and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.